All right, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to go over how to do the process nickel function. So first, I want to just remind you that it is assumed that you have already done program one. It's also assumed that you already watched the first video for program two. So we're starting out. We've already done the file input. We've made sure that it works. And now I'm going to go over the two different options for your process nickel function. So let's do the first option first. So obviously you have to, after I show you how to do process nickel, you're going to have to add the process dime and the process quarter. So the first one I'm going to do is going to use an input-output parameter, or in other words, a reference parameter. So I'm going to put my function definition down here. Another rule is that you have to make sure that you always comment all of your functions. So I'm not adding the comments here because I don't want you to have to watch me type, but you do need to make sure that you comment all of your functions. All right, so when this function is called, this function is process nickel. It's going to get a year, it's going to be passed to it by value, and the silver price is going to be passed to it by value, and then it's going to calculate the total because you want to have an ongoing total, which is going to be printed back in the main function. So you cannot use global variables for this assignment. If you use global variables, take a look at the rubric. You will lose a lot of points if you try to use global variables for this assignment. The purpose of the assignment is functions, so you need to practice passing and returning things from functions. So you need to print all of the totals, the nickel total, the dime total, and the quarter total are all going to be printed here in the main function. Now I'm going to assume that you've already done your program one. So if you've already done your program one, then you have the code that is used to process the nickels. So I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I just have to update my process nickel calculations and all of that. So the first thing I'm going to point out is that I have a variable called nickel. So when I get in here, my variable called nickel that I need to declare now inside this function is what's going to, it's really a variable to store the information for the current nickel. So what's going to happen is the year is going to come in here and the silver price is going to come in here. Now you need to add to your code, you need to ask and get the price of silver. So in order to test my code, I'm going to leave that part out and I'm just going to set the silver price. So the silver price, I'm going to set it to $29.50. This is not what you should do for your assignment. I'm just doing it because actually I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it here. I'm going to do it in the main. I'm going to set silver price to uh, okay, double silver price equals 29.50. I don't want you to do that. I want you to actually ask and get it from the user, but that's something that you're going to have to add to your program. All right, so now I have the silver price. So now and when I call my function, my process nickel function, I'm going to be passing it the silver price. I'm going to be passing it the year. It's going to utilize the dollar value to determine that it's a nickel, right? So let's go here and see what happens. So I have this variable called nickel. So if the range is between 1942 and 1945, that means it has some silver in it. So it's going to calculate the silver price times this value, which I've already given it to you. If it is before 1942, I said that the price is going to be 9 cents. And if it's later than 1945, then it's going to be 5 cents. So here I'm going to print what the current value of the nickel is, and then I'm going to take that value. This is the same thing as saying the nickel total equals the nickel total plus the current nickel. So keep in mind that this nickel right here is the current nickel that I'm calculating. I could reset it here to 0 each time just to make sure, because each time it comes in, I'm going to use the year to determine what the current value of that nickel is. And then I'm going to calculate the nickel total. And because this is a reference parameter, it's going to be modified. And you can see you don't have to do that whole value at and everything in C++, but it still works the same way. This is a reference parameter. So it's going to take a reference to the total. It's going to calculate it and do and update the ongoing total. This year is going to be a copy of the year that comes from the file, and this silver price is going to be a copy of the silver price that comes from the file. All right, so now I'm going to see if it's working as expected, so I'm going to have to call this function. So this should put all the total of all of the nickels. If it has any other dollar value, it's not really going to do anything with it. So I'm only going to be doing the nickels. Obviously, you're going to have to add the dimes and the quarters. All right, so let's make our function call here. Our function call is process nickel. We're going to print out what the ongoing total is, and then it's going to have each time there's a nickel, so if it's 5 cents the first time, then the next time it's 9 cents, then the ongoing total will be 14 cents. Then after it's processed all of the nickels, it's going to have the final total over here. So to call this function, I'm just going to have to pass it the nickel total, which is a reference parameter. So that's how it's getting updated. I have to pass it the year, and I have to pass it the silver price, which hopefully this is the correct spelling of that variable. So it's going to take by value the silver price, by value the year, and by reference the nickel total. So if it works as expected, it should go through and calculate only the nickels. If it's not going to do anything with the dimes or the quarters. Actually, it's going to print it doesn't match criteria for the dimes and the quarters because I only at this point have an if and an else. And I'm leaving the dimes and the quarters for you to do. So let's see if it works as expected. Now I want you, when you turn in your code, to get rid of all warnings. Uh, this, these warnings are just because I have function prototypes up here and I have not implemented the function definition yet. So you should always check your errors. Obviously it won't work, but also always check your warnings. So let's see if this works. All right, so it went through. The total of the nickels entered was $3.41. And you can see here the last nickel that it did was $3.41. So I'm pretty sure that it is working as expected. I could actually check better by taking out this message so that it's only going to deal with the nickels. All right, so I'm still printing out the information from the file. That's why. Okay. Let's get rid of that as well. All right. So when you're testing so there's a $1.66 nickel, a 9-cent nickel, and a $1.75. Oh no, a $1.66 nickel, a 9-cent nickel, and a $1.66 nickel. So hopefully that adds up to $3.41. It looks right, so hopefully it is working as expected. Of course, you can always double check. All right, so now we did this pass by reference function, and now I'm going to comment this out, and I'm going to show you the other way to do the function. It's up to you to choose which way. You can also do a combination if you want practice. So instead of doing a pass by reference parameter, you could change it and you could do a function that has a double return type. So instead of getting the nickel total as a input output, you don't have to do both. Obviously, you just pick one. You either want to process the nickel with a double return type, or you want to process the nickel using the reference parameter. So let's implement this one. Again, don't forget to put your comments on your functions. So I'm going to get my nickel information here. So I'm going to have to again declare my nickel. So I'm going to set that to 0 each time. So here I'm going to check and I'm going to calculate that. And I'm going to calculate the nickel total, but instead of oh yeah, in order to do this, you have to pass it the ongoing nickel total. Yeah. So we do have to add another parameter, which is going to be the ongoing nickel total. So it's going to be a pass by value because it's an ongoing value. So you're going to be passing what the nickel total is, but it's not passed by reference. So it's not going to update it through the parameter. It's going to update it by calculating the ongoing total and then returning the ongoing total. So for example, when it first comes in, it's going to be like $1.66, and then it's going to be 9 cents. So it's going to be $1.66 plus 9 cents. And then the next time it's going to, so each time, instead of updating it through the input output parameter, it's going to be updated. It's going to start out at 0 first. So it's going to start out at 0 and then add the $1.66. So it will return $1.66. Then the next time you call it, it'll pass the $1.66. It'll add the 9 cents to it. It'll return the $1.66 plus 9 cents. So hopefully it's going to work as expected. So let's see if it does. So we're going to take our nickel total, is going to be the return type, and then we're going to pass it. So in this case, these are all passed by value parameters. There's no input output parameter. You're going to have the ongoing total, and then you're going to have return the updated total, where in this case, you pass it the ongoing total, but it returns the updated total through the parameter. This is still passed by value, and this is still passed by value. So I need to update this by adding the nickel total. Okay, again, there's a difference here. This is a reference parameter. So the update goes through the parameter, and you know it's a reference parameter because it has this ampersand. So technically it's like a pointer. Works like a pointer. In the second one, this is a value parameter, so it makes a copy and then it returns the result through the return type. So let's test and make sure that this works as expected. Okay, so it still works as expected. It passes first 0 and then adds the 166. Then it passes the 166 and it adds the 9 cents. Then it passes the $1.75 and it adds the 166. So the final total is going to be $3.41. So all you need to do is make a choice on whether you want to use this type of function um, or you want to use this type of function. Or if you want to use a combination, you could use one for the nickel, one for the dime, and one for the quarter. Keep in mind that this is learning. So the whole purpose of doing this is to learn and to understand. So it's not supposed to, it doesn't have to be consistent. The only thing is do not use any global variables. You need to practice passing and returning things from functions.